What's up, Crypto Land? I'm Justin with ARK.io, and something a little different is coming to YouTube.ARK.io. We're actually got a couple things going on. First off, check out the studio behind me. This is pretty cool, and I've got big plans for this coming to the channel, so be sure to subscribe, hit the bell. You're gonna get some new cool videos coming your way. But also, we're doing something really special where we're actually bringing multiple members of the ARK team onto the YouTube channel, and we're discussing what we're doing. Today, we're talking about MarketSquare, which is the new homepage for the decentralized web. The public beta for this platform starts in Q4 of 2020. And in this video, we're answering community questions that were collected on our Slack at slack.ark.io, which is like the giant real-time chat system for our community members. Also the Reddit at reddit.ark.io, and around the crypto sphere. So we're going to take some questions about what MarketSquare is. And there's a blog article that's been released on the blog, I think last week, called MarketSquare: An Inside Look. The link to that article is in the description. And just a quick breakdown on MarketSquare before we introduce our team members here today. MarketSquare is something that lets us make it easy to discover businesses, blockchains, applications, and delegates. By searching through different categories using our robust search function and following your favorite projects, it will be simple to learn about, interact with, and follow projects and businesses within the blockchain industry. MarketSquare is for more than just for members of the ARK ecosystem, it's for the industry as a whole. So with all that said, let's get right into this video. Starting off with some introductions, we've got Matthew DC with us here today. Matt, are you out there?
I'm here, yes. Thanks, Justin.
Brilliant. Why don't you introduce yourself, your title at ARK.io, and go into some of your chief responsibilities for ARK?
Yeah, so I'm Matt. I'm the chief strategist for ARK.io. And essentially, my job is to make sure sort of the business is running functionally, that our processes are optimized, that our designs look good, that everything's consistent, sort of overseeing pretty much all aspects of strategy as far as business and product.
So next up, we have Ray Alvarez. Ray, say what's up.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Justin, for having me.
For sure. Why don't you give us your title and your chief responsibilities for ARK?
I am ARK's Strategic Partnerships Manager, and I manage the relationships between ARK's partners that are building on our platform and also any external partners that are looking to use our technology or just want to find out more about ARK.
And then last up, but definitely not least up, we have Elaine Egan with us today. Elaine, say what's up.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for inviting me along here today, Justin. A little bit nervous, first time doing anything like this. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for ARK. I've been with the team now for almost 4 months and still loving it. It's great. No 2 days are ever the same. Some of you out there may have seen me on the Slack channel, Discord, and Reddit. I'm there to help answer questions, get support. If I can't solve a problem for you, then I'll go away and consult one of the other guys on the team and come back to you and help you out. I'm always happy to help. If anyone has any questions, just find me in the Slack channel or email me. Happy to help, as I say. Yeah, what else do I do? Well, I work with the marketing team, obviously, and it's our job to come up with new and innovative ways to market ARK and MarketSquare, trying to think of new ideas and areas that we can explore to push ARK and MarketSquare out further and further into the crypto land.
That's going to conclude everybody that's here today, and I can't wait to jump into the rest of this video here. My name's Justin. I'm chiefly responsible for content creation, specifically rich content on the YouTube channel, as well as hosting a podcast with new episodes coming out every Friday on podcast.ark.io. You may have heard me on this channel in the monthly update videos that we release every month, showing all of ARK's achievements and accomplishments for that month. And of course, I'm on the channel in ARK Adventures, of course, before the global health crisis, traveling all around the world and doing cool ARK stuff and taking you all along for the ride. So more reasons to subscribe. But let's talk MarketSquare today and how the idea came about as part of the master plan for the ARK ecosystem.
It actually goes quite a bit back, long before ARK even existed. So a lot of you may not know, but Crypty had what we call a dApp store at the time. So the dApp store, the idea was to allow people to list applications that they built Specifically at that point, we were focusing on things built on the Crypto technology, which was the precursor to Lisk and ARK. And so that dApp store was actually in the wallet for Crypto. And that was sort of the first rendition of this idea of this marketplace. It didn't get to be built into what we wanted it to be, the full vision of it. And that's sort of what MarketSquare is. The idea is that in this industry, there are a lot of companies building all kinds of different things, and they're great. But a lot of these companies don't have a place to build community together. So everything's sort of built in these silos. The communities are in these silos, and everybody just is maximalists for what they believe in for their tech. And we don't all sort of come together as an industry to build something bigger than just us. Crypto is a community as a whole, not necessarily just ARK or just Ethereum or just Bitcoin. And I feel like too much in this industry, people have focused on, well, I'm a Bitcoin person and that's it. Or, I'm an Ethereum person and I'll maybe like ERC20 tokens, but anything else is, well, we won't say what it is on this family-friendly video. But, everybody's just so focused on one technology, but really it's about pushing the industry and the technology as a whole. And so the idea behind MarketSquare was to build something that was for companies, for projects, for startups to sort of build community around together as an industry.
Yeah, I really like how you touched on the problem, as it were, in the current blockchain ecosystem and community, where everything's kind of like in these silos, and to address the problem that MarketSquare solves, MarketSquare, it fills a key niche in this area where it joins together all these different platforms and services, what they do, and then makes it a one-stop destination. So like, for example, right, you've got like blockchain directories like CoinMarketCap or Live CoinWatch, and where users can go to learn. You've got crypto business directories like spendabit.co, where you can find out where to spend your cryptocurrency at various businesses. You've got social media platforms like Hive and Somi.social, where people connect with each other. You've got dApp directories, like, for example, dApp.com, that lists different decentralized applications that users can use. And then also you've got each blockchain with a voting mechanism has their own separate third-party service where people can research different delegates or validators to vote for. And so all of these different things do their thing pretty well. But in order to explore and expand on the overall ecosystem, it's really hard. There's so much more research you have to do. You have to get so much more ingrained in the community of cryptocurrency and blockchain. You have to really dive down the rabbit hole. And I think now in 2020, the size of the overall crypto ecosystem has grown because more people are willing to go down that rabbit hole. But to really accelerate the mainstream adoption, we really need to make it so much easier for people to get their finger on the pulse of the overall ecosystem and see what value it's bringing to the real world as we build this economy 2.0, as it were.
The fundamental issue there is all of these great things exist, all of those things that you just named, all of those websites and portals, but people don't know where to find them all or that they even exist. Many of them have trouble finding communities or finding users for their products that are really great. And so what MarketSquare can do is it can bring all of those under one roof and make them discoverable by the larger community so that you can find those really cool things and those places to get that knowledge and learn more and get valuable, trusted feedback and find others who like the things that you like, who can point you to the really cool stuff.
I'm like super excited about this getting closer to the public beta in Q4. And Ray, since being a part of the testing and feedback process, can you give us your impression of MarketSquare as a tool for users and projects to forge relationships and partnerships with each other? How do you see MarketSquare as a potential tool for people to reach out to each other in the blockchain space?
Okay, I'm going to take this question in parts. No,
Okay.
but I'm going to preface this with my experience with the testing. The testing that we went through, we got to pretty much try out all the features that are going to be in the beta for MarketSquare when it releases, nearly all features. And what I will say is that coming from a background where I'm not using tech on a day-to-day basis, or at least advanced tech, I really do feel that one MarketSquare is for everybody, for the average user, all the way to developers and all the way up to project staff and CEOs and CCOs and all that. But what I will say is that during that time testing, I really did see the value that it brought. to the ecosystem as a whole, to the industry, because I do feel that there's a lot of common touch points and a lot of common pain points that a lot of projects have, where they say, we've built this really great application, or we built this tech, and nobody knows about it, or there's no simple way to really get this tech shown off to anybody or to bring in new users, right? Unless you're paying a lot of money to a marketing firm, or you're paying a gross amount of money to some website to write an article about it, where it shouldn't have to be like that to be able to discover useful applications and applications that make people's lives easier. So there is a real need in the industry as a whole to be able to not only discover these apps, but I think that in terms of maturity, people are maturing in this industry, and hopefully that's our hope, right? That they're maturing in this industry and they're actually looking for projects that have actual substance, that have actual things that they're building and working on. So I really do think that's the main selling point for me, at least when I approach it from a partnership perspective. When I'm talking to other projects, it really does open the door to a lot more connections than it did before, because before I'm coming to them as a representative of ARK, one project in a sea of thousands, right? But when I come to them in terms of MarketSquare, I'm saying, look, I know that you're building this application, you're building application A, B, and C. I really do think that there is a larger audience that, should be, using this, or that should be exposed to this, or at least at the very, very least know that this exists, right? So MarketSquare is that way where you, one, forge a relationship that was previously, a little bit more guarded at the beginning when you're trying to reach out the first time as part of a representative of a project. And at the same time, you're also giving that project something in return. You're saying, look, we know what you guys are doing. We appreciate it. We like what you're doing, and we want to bring you into this platform so more people, excuse me, so more people can find you. And I really do think that from a partnership level, that type of relationship where you can come to the table at the very beginning with something really does help a lot, and it goes a long way.
So Elaine, can you go into detail on whether you feel MarketSquare can fill a needed role for the ARK community and overall blockchain community? Why do you feel that it would complement existing channels like the ARK Slack, Reddit, and Discord?
In my experience with our other platforms, with the Reddit and Slack and everything, they're great. They're fun, they're lively, they're friendly. But the way I look at them is as conversations. They flow, they move, they evolve. Whereas MarketSquare, from what I can see, provides and you've said it, Justin, a one-stop place. It's not like the conversation, it's like a billboard, for example. It's going to showcase, it's going to provide a platform for people to find projects. And building on something Ray said there, I mean, I got into crypto back in 2017, and I spent a lot of time, and I mean a lot of time, researching, looking stuff up, finding projects that I liked, finding projects I didn't like. And really and truly, like I said, I probably spent too much time doing it. And to bring crypto to mainstream people, I think you've got to make it easy for people to find things. They're not going to want to spend the time. People probably aren't as crazy as me and research for hours and days. So if you've got something there that can help them find, discover, and also importantly comment on and build relationships, I think this project is just really great in that respect. It's like you said, there are loads of projects out there, loads of projects. They're so disjointed, and the internet is such a big place that stuff gets lost. Whereas I feel MarketSquare brings things together. It's, like you said, one-stop destination.
All right, so let's move right into the initial impressions of testing. Now, this is like one of the big questions of this video, right? Because we have seen this. The development team has been just destroying all the tasks. All of the Trello has got all these like columns of things, and then the internal testers, like, we're testing it, we're giving feedback, And then there's the external testers, those outside of the ARK team that are giving feedback. And this whole process is running. So Matt, when you started using the platform in its current state, what were your initial impressions? And how does the current version of MarketSquare live up to the initial vision?
So obviously, I love it. I think that goes without saying. From my perspective, though, there are some things that we need to touch on from the previous conversations before I get into my personal sort of experience with using MarketSquare.
Okay.
And that are some things that Ray and Elaine touched on that I'd like to comment on. And the first is Ray talked about exposure. And one of the things for exposure that I think is really important to understand is that this industry has gotten too focused on sort of building community and building what we are as an industry around specific companies like Binance and CoinDesk and these companies who charge money to people, sometimes exorbitant amounts of money, to be able to get exposure. And so to get an article on most news sites in this industry, it can be anywhere from thousands of dollars to tens of thousands of dollars for proper exposure. To get listed on exchanges or to get listed on websites, they all charge money. And so one of the things that I want to point out about MarketSquare that I think sets it apart from others is that there is no expensive barrier to entry here. This is a community built by the community for the community, and all of those barriers that you see with these other organizations for exposure are eliminated. There's a small transaction fee on the network to store your data, but as far as being listed in and using MarketSquare, it's relatively free for the company, for the project, to get their name out there and to get exposure. And so I think that's something that sets it apart. And I think that goes to the second point that I want to make, which is our industry has been so focused, and all of these things that we've talked about so far have been so focused on the sort of market aspect of what blockchain is. And what I mean by that is all of the websites that you go out there to find data, there's data out there, but that data is focused on price, historical price, charting, analysis, all of these things that don't really matter to users who just want to use cool things. And so part of how MarketSquare is focusing our energy is on giving them that piece that the user wants to be able to use blockchain, not just buy and sell it, right? And I think that's sort of what sets MarketSquare apart. The barrier to entry is extremely low. Everybody can be involved, and you're getting involved to get users who actually want to use your thing, not just buy and sell a token. And so I want to make that point so that we can show where we think we differentiate from all of these others that are trying similar things, because I think that's an important place to start. And that goes into my sort of expectations and what I felt when I first used MarketSquare. And that is, it lives up to the hype to me. However, there are a lot of things that I still want to build. As always.
Isn't there always, though? Isn't there always?
I have 1,000 ideas. And when we mapped this out, we actually have 4 phases of development, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later. But, this first piece, seeing it live and actionable and actually getting to touch it and use it and see what it's become is one of the most exciting points for me since starting in this industry in 2015. Even with the handful of projects that existed then, you couldn't find good things. And so using MarketSquare and seeing some of the other testers and how they got excited and used MarketSquare and some of the things that they did with it that I hadn't thought of, or already seeing them experiment with what the profiles could do, was really cool to me. I think that's one of the coolest things I'm looking forward to is building something that allows other projects to be able to find people who want to be validators or run nodes. And so creating something that's focused on the people who matter, the delegates and developers and the people building cool things, I think really sets MarketSquare apart. And that's the part that really has me excited after using it, because I think those systems got nailed. I think they're perfect. And I think we're just going to be able to grow them and expand them to have a lot of really cool new features in these next phases that we have coming up. So my first impressions were overly excited to get it in the hands of people to see what they will do with it. Because just based on the testers alone, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to build this thing out. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. I think it lives up to my expectations, but I definitely want to do more.
All right. So Ray, let's get your initial impressions on testing as well. What did you think of MarketSquare when you first used it for the very first time?
All right, so I'm under an NDA, so I don't know how much I can say. No, I'm just kidding. But, pretty much with MarketSquare, I will say that the second I created the profile, I just wanted to do more. I wanted to check out all the tabs. I wanted to go to the different sections of the actual product and see what was going on everywhere. the best thing for me that I could say about the initial impression was that I do feel it's a pretty robust system, and there's plenty of stuff on the roadmap in the future. But I do think that its current form, the way it's rolled out right now, I would say that it's even ready right now to be released to the public. And I thought that for sure I could see the value when I approach partners with this and say, okay, it's time to go ahead and try to do X, Y, and Z. I want you to try to register for MarketSquare. I want you to try to, claim your business. I want you to claim your applications. And I think that it opens up the doors a lot to them trying things out and getting in there, because once you go over that first hurdle where you register, you sign up, and you create your profile, the rest of it just kind of flows together and it's a lot easier. So once you get in through the door, you're just creating, building, claiming your properties. And the best part for me was at the end when I had already claimed a delegate, for example, claimed the business as an example, claimed, all these different things. And at the end of it, I get to see my profile and I get to see products and projects that you're involved in. And I have all this great stuff under my name. And it made me feel good, because it's almost like a completionist thing where you try to see like, okay, put all my building blocks together. And then I get to show people, this is what I've been involved in since, 2018 or 2017 or whenever you started, right? And I think that it almost works as a better version of LinkedIn when you're talking to people directly in crypto that know crypto. So if you're looking for stuff in the industry, if you're looking to discover things, checking out people's profiles that way, I think is a huge, huge plus for the industry.
So I'd love to see what Elaine has to add. Elaine, what were your initial impressions of MarketSquare?
As I mentioned, I've been with the team for 4 months almost. So I'm really coming to MarketSquare as a complete newbie. The guys have been working on MarketSquare for months now, and they had a really good understanding of what it is, what it does, the aims, the mission, whereas I just was going, whoa, they're all really excited about this project. Oh, wow, what on earth is it? All of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. It's just really gonna work. The testing was great. It was really good fun. My first impression was it's such a clean platform. It's very fresh, which is nice because there's no distractions. It's not gimmicky by any standards. I'm not saying it's boring. Oh, far from it. The design is definitely not boring. But what I like about it is it's professional. It looks professional. It doesn't look like it's been thrown together. The other thing I liked about it as well is you're not having to click around. You're not jumping from page to get information, go back here, go back there. The flow is very smooth, from signing in to creating your profile to claiming your properties. It's all very, very step by step. I really think that our users are going to find it a real benefit to them, and they're going to enjoy the experience.
Most of my input for my first impressions coincide with yours on the design and being simple, because I did want to add to that by mentioning that simplicity is one of ARK's core values. Now, there are 6 core values for ARK, but simplicity is like number 1. So whenever we're doing anything, when we're making content, we're making materials, we're building code, we're working on the API for developers, we're building new products like MarketSquare, like simplicity is like, is it simple? Make sure. And I really resonated with your feedback on that, Elaine. But to add something new for myself, for my first impressions, I really enjoyed the way that you interact with the wallet in conjunction with MarketSquare. So I've used certain crypto products in the past where there's a thing that's like a front end interface that's not a wallet, but it's like a portal. And then you need to use a blockchain of some kind in order to do something. And in the past, I found that to be pretty difficult and cumbersome. Like, I'm pretty much mostly steeped in ARK technology. So, different projects have different approaches to UI and user experience. And I was getting a little hung up in the past on, okay, now it's time to do the blockchain thing. And I'm like, all right, how do I do the blockchain thing? And I would get like, okay, now what? And when I found ARK, I was like, oh, this is very simple. Like, I know what I need to do. I can see, my transactions. I can see all the things I can do within the wallet. The Explorer is really clean and easy to use. So now, like, with those principles baked into MarketSquare, when it comes time to use the ARK public network to claim a property or do a registration transaction or sign a transaction, sign a special message, it's really a clean experience. When you're leaving MarketSquare to jump into the wallet, you do the blockchain thing, and then you jump right back into MarketSquare and it says, hey, like, it worked. I really appreciated that aspect of it, because I think that in the flow and funnel of new users joining the platform, I think that using the blockchain thing is probably going to be one of the biggest bottlenecks of the entire process. So I could tell that the development team and the design team put a lot of thought into that part of the process. And it makes me even more excited for the new version of the desktop wallet, which is coming soon. It's way more than just a fresh coat of paint. I'm not going to say any more about that for now. This is about MarketSquare. But I really like that experience. So I think MarketSquare is definitely heading in the right direction. And I agree with everybody's comments here. So now it's come time to move into the community questions. This is probably one of the main reasons you're watching this video. Maybe you're one of the people who asked one of these questions. We're going to answer all these questions. We're actually going to start off with Matt here. You'll notice that a lot of these questions are going to be thrown Matt's way as chief strategist. But Matt, will MarketSquare utilize the ARK public network, and how?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I think that's probably on a lot of people's mind. MarketSquare was built from the ground up to sort of enable the ARK public network. It's built specifically for the ARK public network. So all of the data that is in MarketSquare, all of the data that we pull for these profiles, all the data that you're storing about your project or your delegate is stored in conjunction with the ARK public network. So we created these new transaction types using ARK core framework, and these new transaction types are registration, update, resign, and these all go back to MarketSquare, right? So on the ARK public network, you'll be able to register an entity, whatever that is. It may be your business. And then if you need to, you'll be able to update the information about that business. And if you end up going out of business, or you want to get to the point where people know that you're no longer in business, you can resign that entity, and that also shows on the ARK public network. And the cool thing about this, and this is where I think it really gets interesting, is that we built this in a way that it's not just about ARK. The ARK public network is important, and this all uses the ARK public network, but the ARK public network isn't just about MarketSquare. And I think that's important to point out. This data that is being stored on the ARK public network can be used by anyone, anywhere. It's all publicly available because it's on a blockchain. So by registering with MarketSquare, by registering your data on the ARK public network, you're making these descriptions, these pieces of information about your product, your seed servers, and sort of how your blockchain works or your project works. You're making them available to anyone. And so maybe, CoinMarketCap wants to pull the description from the ARK public network and use that for your specific tokens. They can do that because it's publicly available decentralized data. And so we're building all of this in conjunction with IPFS so that that data is easily available to anyone, anywhere. And so I think these are the kinds of principles that set us apart from other companies, right? Rather than figure out some proprietary way to keep this data secret and charge people to access it, it's on the network. It's about the network. It gives the ARK public network an additional purpose that I think is really cool and really important. And that is being a repository for information about the industry, about everything in the industry, because MarketSquare helps bring people in to get them to register so they can have pages and profiles and find a community. But at the same time, it's putting that data on the ARK public network, which will increase usage by getting people to come in and say, hey, this data is really cool. Like, I want to use it for this project. And then the more projects that use that data, the more people will want to put their data in the ARK public network. And you just sort of create this funnel. And so I think it's important for people to understand that it does use the ARK public network. It's actually built specifically to add utility to the ARK public network. And that's sort of the relationship that's built between the two.
And I think your answer kind of auto answers this next community question, which is, will there be an MSQ crypto asset that runs for MarketSquare platform?
Yeah, also a good question. No, there won't be an MSQ token because it already exists, and that's ARK. One of the things we said from the very beginning was we created the ARK core framework because we had a lot of ideas for really cool projects that we wanted to build, but we needed an easy way to rapidly deploy new projects with blockchain technology that we could reuse, right? And that's where we sort of came up with core framework and these transaction types and how it's sort of modular and plug and play, right? And so as we build these new use cases, MarketSquare being one use case for blockchain technology, right? The blockchain is the ARK public network. MarketSquare is the use case, and it's using it to store data that it needs about all these different properties. As we build these, our promise and what we said from the beginning was the reason we built the ecosystem the way we did was so that we could use the ARK token as the utility for all of these things, right? We're building these use cases for the ARK token. That's the whole point. We wanted one central sort of currency for anything that we build, all of these projects that we build. And so MarketSquare being one of these projects, anything in MarketSquare that has a cost associated, anything in MarketSquare that needs you to pay for something, it'll be ARK. ARK will be the only token that's used. That'll be the important token, and it'll revolve around using ARK and the ARK public network, because that's the point of MarketSquare, really.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense, actually. Now, let's move into this third question, which is it decentralized and immutable? And if not, why create a centralized platform for a decentralized ecosystem?
So that one's one that we struggled with, trying to determine what that line was between where decentralization makes sense and where centralization makes sense, and how you kind of skirt that appropriately, right? Because one thing I think that people make the mistake of doing in this industry is saying everything has to be decentralized or it's centralized. Well, I think there's an in-between there. I think there are pieces that can be decentralized and used in multiple ways, but some things it still makes sense to have it centralized because you can create a better user experience and you can create a better flow for the user. And what a lot of people do wrong is by trying to decentralize everything, they create bad user experiences. And that's really hurt our industry, because a lot of the, UIs out there and a lot of the UX is poorly done. And that's because they try so hard to make everything extremely decentralized. But really what needs to be decentralized is just the important parts, the currency or the information or the things that you want to be immutable. So in our case, in ARK's case, in the ARK public network and MarketSquare, the data, the information is immutable in the sense that it's stored on the network, the hash for the IPFS file that has the data. The IPFS file, that hash, if you change the data, you change the hash, so you'll know what the data was originally. So the data is essentially immutable in that case. And the pieces that don't refer to the data that we don't want to be manipulated or that we don't want to be censored, those pieces are built in and focused on the user experience. So MarketSquare is focused on creating a good experience for the user. And to do that, you need to be able to create things like usernames and passwords and traditional systems and logins and profiles, right? And some of those do have to be slightly centralized in the fact that someone needs to have that user profile and needs to be stored somewhere. And it's hard to do all of those components on the blockchain because there are several issues that you run into with complexity of code and other things that we don't need to get into on this specific call. But the key here is the data is decentralized. The interface is quasi-centralized, right? It's just an interface. It connects to our server because that's where your profile is stored. But all of the data that you're seeing, all the data that is stored by the project on the blockchain, and we can't touch it, right? We can't change it. And if we did, that data would still be on the blockchain in its original form. So if MarketSquare were to decide to censor something or change something or alter something or remove something, someone else could create a competing product that did not remove, censor, or alter those things. And all that data would be available for them the way it was originally stored on the blockchain before anything we did to it. You could have a situation where MarketSquare decides that something is damaging or that it is illegal. So let's say somebody registers something on MarketSquare that is blatantly illegal, selling something or doing something that is illegal. MarketSquare may choose as a business entity that is legally registered to censor that because it's illegal. That data can still exist on the blockchain. Somebody else could still post it if they wanted to. The blockchain would still be immutable. It would have not been changed, but we would then censor that to protect ourselves legally. That is something that could happen. And in the case that that happens, the data on the blockchain could still be pulled directly in other various methods by other products if somebody wanted to create them. While we don't condone, sort of encouraging or incentivizing people to do illegal things. We do believe in blockchain and immutability, and that censorship resistance is important. And so that's why the fundamental data is censorship resistant, but our implementation as a legal business entity may have to take certain precautions to protect ourselves. And so that's where we sort of draw this line between decentralization and centralization, and where we create this centralized entity that protects users by not showing them things that are harmful to them or their children or whoever. But the data is still decentralized for the sake of, being immutable and being able to find that true data that the person wanted you to find.
So next up, let's have Ray answer a question. Now, Ray, how will Powered by ARK projects utilize MarketSquare directly, and what role does it play for them?
Well, that's a good question. What I feel is going to be that when they start using the application, when they start using MarketSquare on a regular basis, it's not only going to be a direct link for them to the ARK community as current efforts have been, but it's also going to be a way for them to forge relationships and bring in members from different communities to see what they're working on. Because usually the Powered by ARK partners, a lot of them were in our external testing group. So they are the first ones to get a hands-on impression outside of the general team. So for them, it's going to be almost like a head start. They're going to be jumping into the project. They're going to know exactly, what they need to do, how they need to claim things right away, and they're going to be able to set it up at the beginning. And sometimes it's that thing that we talk about in terms of crypto. It's that first mover advantage. It's going to be almost like I got in, I created all my stuff, I'm here already, I have a presence here now. So when these first influx of projects, developers, users start coming into MarketSquare, what are they going to see first when they sign up? They're going to see projects like NOS. They're going to see projects like BC Diploma, projects like Unique Name. And it's also going to increase a lot of traffic to those projects, because since those are the first things that are going to be on there, right? People are going to start clicking, and they're going to start learning, and they're going to start digesting that information. So for them, it's going to be almost like that first mover advantage, where you move into the product first, you already established your home, and now people are going to be coming in to look for real estate so that they can set up their home. So it's a good mix.
All right, great to hear. So this next question is right back in Matt's direction. Now, why is it called MarketSquare, and how did that name come about?
So we had internally called it from the very beginning Marketplace, because that's essentially a descriptor, right? ARK Marketplace was sort of us describing its function, because that was the easiest way to refer to it in the early days. So as time went by, we sort of started building the project, and we realized that Marketplace is not a very easy to get branding. So Marketplace domains, Marketplace, anything that we would need was pretty difficult to come by. We couldn't get any of the .ios or .coms or anything unless we went with like .gg or something ridiculous. So we started talking, and MarketSquare really was the thing that we all kind of came to because of the meaning of it, right? Elaine talked about this earlier and sort of made the correlation between the MarketSquare and what it was to commerce back in the day, and what we're trying to do for the sort of blockchain ecosystem. And that is create a central place where people could come together and show their wares, and other people can come and find it, right? And that's the fundamental purpose of MarketSquare. Connect users to projects that they'll love. And so MarketSquare just fit, and of course the domains were available, so that helped. But a lot of people will ask why we didn't brand it as ARK MarketSquare, or why it's not the favorite of some of our developers, ARK It Square, which I'm kidding, they didn't like that, they hated it. But the idea behind the branding is that we wanted to make a differentiation between what is the ARK core framework, which is our key open source sort of blockchain technology, and what we consider sort of use cases or commercial products or things that aren't necessarily part of the core framework. And so everything in the core framework is sort of ARK desktop wallet, ARK mobile wallet, and ARK. But MarketSquare is about a broader audience. It's about the industry as a whole, and it's a specific use case product. And so we wanted to be able to brand it that way, because we wanted to make sure people understood that this isn't just about ARK. This isn't ARK. If you support MarketSquare, you're not supporting necessarily our infrastructure or saying you're going to move to using an ARK blockchain. It's just about being a part of something really cool that brings the industry together. And so the branding sort of, we wanted to reflect that. And MarketSquare was the perfect name. And so, we were sold immediately on it.
And so this kind of actually follows right into the next question, which, since you're calling this MarketSquare, will everything ARK eventually become MarketSquare? This is the community question here. Like, will everything change and ARK becomes MSQ and everything becomes MarketSquare?
MarketSquare is MarketSquare. It's a specific product that we built that will be out there in the world and will be called MarketSquare. But ARK will always be ARK, right? So we have the ARK core framework, which will consist of all of our important pieces of what makes ARK blockchains, as opposed to Ethereum or something else. MarketSquare will be MarketSquare. The token won't change. It will always be ARK. And so nothing will change aside from we have a new product as a company called MarketSquare that happens to use the ARK public network to store data.
So we have a question for Elaine now. Elaine, the community question is this. Can someone create listings like businesses or plugins that pertain to other crypto assets and not just ARK?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. Yes, they can. And that's another benefit of MarketSquare. Users can register a property on the ARK public network using the ARK desktop wallet. And once they've done that, they can go to MarketSquare and claim their property, update the information, and just use it as anybody else would. So yeah, it's one of the benefits. And
I also think that that's a really cool baked in feature to grow the community of ARK, because you'll have users coming in who like Litecoin and they're looking at some Litecoin businesses, or they're looking at some Litecoin content on MarketSquare. And then they're like, oh, this is a product of ARK.io. And then they're like, what's ARK.io? And then there you go. So it's bringing features that unite the overall crypto ecosystem, but also it has baked in like word of mouth marketing, I guess you could say. Like, that feature is kind of like, it is marketing, because it'll build a larger community for ARK. Not that we're saying that it definitely will or won't, but it has a possibility to do that. So I think that's a really cool thing. Thanks, Elaine. There's actually another question for you here. In your opinion, what is one word that represents or describes MarketSquare?
One word?
One word. That's what the question is. I must serve the community, and I must repeat these questions verbatim.
Oh, exceptional.
Wow.
Can I add one in there?
I love all those syllables in that right there. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
So for me, sort of the point of MarketSquare is that it puts the ecosystem in ARK ecosystem. Our goal isn't just to create ARK, but it's to create an ecosystem in this industry. And I think that's the piece that MarketSquare really brings to the table, is the building of that ecosystem. So if anything, MarketSquare to me, that one word would be ecosystem.
All right, well said. So I guess that's two instances of one word. It's technically not two words, so the question still stands. All right, Matt, we're moving along with some more questions for you. This one it's getting a little tougher now. I'm going to read this verbatim as it was asked, emojis included, and then we'll get your answer here. So, Matt, the roadmap said on roadmap.ark.io that it would be completed by July 1st. Why isn't it released yet? What are you hiding? There's the clap emojis that were in there. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would start this off by saying that, the Illuminati has been secret for many years for a reason, and there are some things that we simply can't tell people. And so I'll have to leave it at that. I'm just kidding.
Okay, he's kidding.
So I think people take the roadmap way too seriously. I understand that people want an indicator of what we're building and how we're building it and when to expect releases, but it's not black and white. It's not A to Z. Development takes time, and sometimes there are winding paths that you have to go down to get to the right product. And MarketSquare actually is done. The roadmap specifically states expected, like projected completion dates, not necessarily when we will launch it or when all testing will be done. And so our goal was to try to be in beta in July. We're still in July. And I actually think that we will start allowing some beta testers, some external testers outside of our specific external testing group pretty soon. So what I would say is we are on track. But we will not release a product that we don't think meets our expectations, and we're still testing. So it's built, as you've heard several of these attendees say earlier in this call, all of the function is pretty much there, right? But one of the things that we want to do is make sure that the flow feels good, that everything functions correctly, and that when we put this out there, it's working how we want it to. And to do that, there are some things that had to happen. And one of the biggest was, as we got further into developing MarketSquare, we realized that some of the things that we have on the network for registration types and how the registration types work needed to be altered a little bit. And so that requires us to make changes to core. And changes to core can't be done lightly. We need to seriously consider every change that we make to core, even with transaction types. And so to do that, we need to make sure that we're properly thinking it through, that we do the research on the possible negative ramifications, and that we properly test every single one of these transaction types to make sure that they work correctly before we put them on the network, because you're talking about money at stake, right? And so once we decided that we needed to alter the transaction types in what we call AIP 36, which is an ARK improvement proposal, which talks about things that you want to do to improve ARK. Once we realized that we were doing that, it sort of changed our testing process a little bit. So we have MarketSquare, we've tested MarketSquare and it works, but we also need to make sure that these changes to core and the new core release works, because they go hand in hand and they require each other. So the reason it hasn't released yet, even though it's functional and probably at a state where it could be, is because we want to make sure that AIP 36 is working and get it out onto the network before we release MarketSquare, so MarketSquare can work to its full potential. So what I would say is, we're not hiding anything. That's pretty much what's happening. We've been testing MarketSquare. It works great. We're showing more off over time. But we want to make sure we get AIP 36 and the changes to core correct, so that we don't put anybody's funds at risk. And once that's done and we're happy with it and 2.7 releases, then MarketSquare will be ready to go.
All right. So Matt, we have another question for you. So this community question is the following: will MarketSquare take away attention and resources from the core business of ARK.io to create and iterate the core and framework?
It's a good question. And I think that that's sort of coming from a misunderstanding of how we work as a company. ARK has many products, and each of those products has a team. Core has its own team that is completely separate from the team that works on MarketSquare, or that even works on the desktop wallet. So the core team is pretty much in no way affected by MarketSquare or the team building MarketSquare. Those developers are completely different developers, and they can both work in unison. What I would say is, MarketSquare, I think, personally improves core in a lot of ways. And that's because MarketSquare is using core on a daily basis to do the functions that it needs to actually make something users want to use, right? Our core, the purpose of it is to allow us to rapidly deploy new blockchain applications, new blockchain use cases, new ways to use blockchains for things that users will actually want to use. MarketSquare is the first one that we're building ourselves, and it happens to use the ARK public network. And in doing so, we've realized several things. Number one, we needed to improve the transaction types that we built. And so now we went back to the ground with Magistrate 2.0, and we've sort of re-envisioned what those are and how they work. And in creating the new transaction types, we learned things about what it's like to create transaction types and use our modular core and create these new aspects of it. And that then goes into core and being able to improve the process of making transaction types, or how the transaction types work with core, to then make it better for other developers to use. So by us creating other products and these products using our core, we're using our core and we're finding ways that we can improve it for other developers. And so I think it doesn't affect core in the sense that the core team is still working on everything they would have before, but it improves core in the way that we are a customer in our own right with separate product teams, in the same way that somebody else would be, which gives us direct insight into how we would use it ourselves. And so that's only going to improve core over the long term.
And then the next question is relating to the business model. Are there plans to create streams of income for MarketSquare that replenish funds for ARK.io? Does MarketSquare have a business model?
It does. I'm not ready to get into all of those yet. But we do have ideas for possible business models down the road. They will not be core functionality of MarketSquare or being involved in MarketSquare. So registering will always just be a transaction on the network that will get you into MarketSquare, will get you listed, and the ability to sort of make connections and find users and build that community that we've been talking about. There will be things potentially that cost money in the future, but core functionality will never cost anything. But we do have some ideas for additional business models to expand the capabilities, but that will be sort of long-term roadmap vision type stuff.
All right, very good. And speaking of long-term roadmap vision type stuff, it leads us to our final question and final portion of this video here. Matt, after the MarketSquare public beta launches, what will be the next steps?
So I've mapped out 4 phases to start with. I won't get into all of them. However, the first sort of update after MarketSquare launches, so the beta will launch, and then the next first release will be focused on social aspects. And that will allow us to create new systems for users that will sort of expand the capabilities and give them new things to do. And that will include things like a badge system where you'll be able to earn badges for different activities, direct messaging where you'll be able to message each other and projects and teams, and things like that to help build the community piece of sort of what MarketSquare is. After that, we're going to do a completely developer-focused phase, and that will incorporate quite a few ideas. The bounties and job boards and things like that will be part of that phase. We'll also be building a knowledge hub and a bunch of other things that I think will be really cool that I don't want to release too many details on right now. But the roadmap is pretty extensive, and we have a lot of really cool stuff we can build. And there's no end in sight for how we can expand this thing. So I'm really excited about the future and sort of what we've got mapped out. And I have a lot of other ideas too that I think we'll get to eventually. So.
All right, well, fantastic. And Matt, I just want to thank you so much for coming onto the ARK YouTube channel here. I definitely feel a lot less lonely now, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
All right, and Ray, thanks a lot very much for coming on. A lot of fun times.
Thanks for having me.
And Elaine, great to have you here. And thank you so much for your input today.
Thanks. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great.
All right. Well, everyone, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this first look and discussion about MarketSquare. Stay tuned on blog.ark.io for more MarketSquare content and details. Also, hit the description for that blog article that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. It's the MarketSquare Inside Look. And then, of course, subscribe and hit that bell icon. I got big plans. Look at this brand new studio. We got this plant. We got the poster from LA. There's only 2 in the world. We got the tiny plants. We got big plans coming to the channel. So you better subscribe before you forget, because you don't want to forget. Not every video will be mass distributed on Twitter and Blockfolio and everything else. Some of these videos are going to come out just for the YouTube subscribers. So hit that subscribe. And then write a comment below to reach us, or you can join slack.ark.io and get in touch with the ARK community and team. I'm also there too. And with all that said, we'll see you next time. Thanks for supporting the ARK ecosystem.